And we are very fortunate to have him, always as a partner and an advisor of our organization. And he himself, as many of you may know, has basically gone through and been married through Aish in general. So we're really, really a big, we have a lot of gratitude and we're grateful to have you here with us. So he is also he owns a company called Ematic, and he's here with us, and he's got loads of advice and wisdom to share. He's a teacher in Torah as well, which is amazing. And can't wait. I've got my pad and paper here, so in case
you won't need it, Rabbi. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I find that as life goes on, the demand for being stressful grows as well, because that's the topic. So I find that as time goes on, the demand to be stressed grows with you. You've got more things going on, more worries, more of a life to be stressed about. But then also as you go on, you gain more wisdom and you're able to cope with that stress. So I always think that this is a very important topic, especially since as life is only going to get more what we may think is stressful or more challenging, because as you go along in life, there's more things on your hands. So more that's demanded, more that's wanted of you. So this is important for me. I'm glad to be here as well, to be a learner of you, Roy, and to learn from whatever you're teaching. So thank you.
So no pressure. I'm going to rely on the crowd here to do most of the teaching. So anybody ever been stressed here? Can you show hands for the... I mean, they're not married. It might be a no. No kids, right? So is stress good or bad? Bad. Okay.
It can be good and
just
bad.
Like a weight. Oh, good. It's a very Jewish answer.
I think it can be good and bad too. I agree.
It depends on how you use it.
Mm. Elaborate.
Like, it can be good depending on if you channel it, and it can be bad depending on if you dwell on it.
Right. So the answer is everybody's right, which always makes everyone happy, but it's true. Stress is good and it's bad depending on how we utilize it, right? Depending on what is the cause of the stress and how are we reacting to it? So just to take a step back, can you guess how many people are stressed in America? This is according to the National Institute of Mental Health, pre-coronavirus, by the way. So I'm sure this number has only gotten worse.
170 million.
Wow, depressing. Close.
Oh my.
Actually, very close. Hold on, I'm going to fact check. Any other guesses? Wow, that was actually dead on. So half of America suffers from stress. So America's population, according to Google, is 328 million. So about 170 million people are suffering from stress.
I'll take my applause later. Thank you.
See, did you wish there was an applause button in Zoom? So many modifications we could make. So stress is good or bad. Rav Chaim Vital said, nothing in the world is good or bad in terms of traits, right? Traits can always, Rabbi Jack can elaborate on this, right? I mean, there's a time to get angry at injustice in the world. There's a time to be, even a rabbi was once asked, what about atheism? How can you say that's good? So he made a joke. He said, look, if somebody comes to your door and asks for a donation, you can't say God's going to help. There is no God. You got to open your pocket and write a check. You should use this, Rabbi. It'll help a lot. So we control our mind. There's a concept. Any therapist in the room or in the whatever you call this?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful too. Oh. Rabbi, you got a tough crowd. So what is neuroplasticity?
Are you asking what it is?
Right. How would you define it?
So like our ability, well, I can give you the scientific definition. But basically, like, if you want to say it simply, is our ability to be flexible and like learn new things.
Great. So we control our minds, basically. We can learn new things. We can adapt to environment. That is what the Rambam defined about, 900 years ago. He explained that we control, because there's a mitzvah in the Torah that says, lo tachmod, don't covet. How can you not covet, right? You see somebody walking down the street with a really nice dog. How can you not covet that dog, right? Especially in these times. You want a friend, you want a dog. How could we control our feelings? So it's this concept. And if we apply this to stress, we can control how we react to stress. I'm going to give at the end of the class, the main thing is there's 5 just pointers, like real life, practical things that we can take away with us that hopefully make us less stressed. So the first step is, anybody know something called emunah? You could Google it, it's fine. How would you define emunah?
Faith.
Faith, good. I actually had I was invited to a barbecue, Corona, standard barbecue, 6 feet away, everybody. And somebody was asking me, what is faith? So how would you define faith? Oh, we got 3 of you in that little chat. One of you has an answer. What are you guys eating there? It looks so good.
Yeah, they can eat
Believing that God is real and the source of everything, and like
Good.
everything you have and get and everything that happens is controlled by Hashem.
So does that mean everything's going to be good in the end?
We don't necessarily see why it's good.
Great. Wow, Rabbi, you've trained them well. So we don't...
He did better than I would have.
Me and you both. So we don't always see the good. Sometimes it's in the moment. Sometimes we literally, it's right there and then we see it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And other times it's like, why is this happening to me? And it could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And that's the difference between emunah and bitachon. Emunah is, we have this concept in our mind, like, oh my gosh, everything's from God. Bitachon is, we live life with it. I mean, you see people who literally nothing could faze them, And a lot of times we don't see, I always say there's a friend of mine, he's a former Israeli soldier, right? Anybody seen Fauda? He's like the Lior Raz, right? Strong, tough, commando guy, like the whole 9 yards. And I remember one time he said, did I tell you guys the story yet? It's my Pink Taco story, no? Okay, rest in peace. Pink Taco's not around anymore. But we went to Pink Taco. He said he asked us to talk to a friend. And he just bawled, like for 20 minutes, he was just bawling that his girlfriend was breaking up with him. And here is an Israeli, tough macho guy, just crying. I remember I told him, like, Mr. X, don't worry. We're going to laugh about this. And I reminded him at his wedding day. I don't know if I was supposed to, but I reminded him, like, you remember we were here before and you remember how much you were crying? Like, look, he married this amazing woman. He has 2 or 3 kids and they live happily ever after. Doesn't always happen that way. Like, that's a happy story. It took a few years. He met a new girl, dated her, etc. But if we look hard, we see it in everyday life. There's I think it's a midrash says that there's 2 things comparable to the splitting of the sea, right? Making matches and parnasa and wealth and making business. And the 2 things that make them comparable to the splitting of the sea is the fact that in both instances, we see God's hand. Now, Rabbi Jack alluded that I got married through Aish. So not only did an Aish rabbi officiate the wedding, right? There's a lot. They do a lot of officiating, but my wife and I met each other on an Israel trip. One of Aish's Israel trips was in 2010, 2009, a while ago. But we met each other and we didn't hit it off right away, but literally 6 months later, we started dating. And today, thank God, we have 3 kids together. So I have no idea why I went on an Israel trip. Like, my family's from Israel. I would never go on an Israel trip. I've been there so many times, but for some reason I wanted to go on an Israel trip. So everything happens for a reason. We don't always see the reason. I'll tell you one quick last story. Did I tell you guys a QVC story? Oh, this is no?
Nope.
Okay. So one time we had a product to be aired on a show called QVC. Basically grandma's shop there, but everybody else go to Amazon, get a good deal. But we had a product going to air on Sunday morning, I think it was. And it was my first time, ever working with this company. And if it does well, boom, like they reorder 10x. If it doesn't do well, you take it all back. And I remember that morning, a lady goes up. Have you ever seen QVC, anybody? Okay, good. One person. Thank God. They have a chance. They have a chance to survive the coronavirus. So one lady basically presents the product on air, and everybody just dials in, calls in, and buys the products. And I didn't understand what happened, but she fell down, right? And she was showing a tablet. She fell down. The cameras went to a blue screen. 30 seconds later, she gets back up. Another blue screen. She falls again. Long story short, she had a low blood sugar. She was anorexic because she was scared to look fat on air, and she fainted. And that airing, I remember I was like, oh my God, she didn't even have a chance to say the name of the product, who's going to buy one of these? Now that nobody could even explain it. And now we're never going to get a reorder. And there's my luck. The one time I go on QVC, the lady decides to faint. And she was hired by them. Long story short, it took off on YouTube. Everybody was watching these clips of this lady just fainting on national TV. And they ended up reordering, and the rest is history. But in the moment, it was oh my goodness, why is God doing this to me? Right? So that's, I guess, the short version of Emunah. So can anybody think 5 quick tips on how to be less stressed in life? There's 5 of them, so you're bound to get one. Better odds in Vegas.
See the good part in every situation.
Good.
I think it's all about perspective. I used to have a lot of anxiety. I actually used to have severe anxiety, and I found a way to kind of reframe my thoughts. A lot of it's probably through learning about psychology, but I now don't have a lot of stress because just the way that I perceive a situation, I find a way to kind of have radical flexibility, I call it, where you just accept what you can't change, and then what is within your ability to change, you're flexible with and creative with. I don't know if that makes, yeah.
No, a lot of sense. Have you ever read the book 8 Habits of Highly Successful People?
No, I have not.
So he basically summarizes that concept in his book. He says that there's 2, it's Stephen Covey. Yeah. So yeah, you're in good company. It's one of the New York Times bestsellers.
I just did it myself, but okay.
No, it's great. You could have written a book, see? Never too late. There's two pools in life. There's 2 circles, he says. There's a circle of things within our control. There's a circle of things not in our control. And a lot of times he found that unsuccessful people are so fixated on things that are not within their control that, my flight got delayed. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my flight has gone delayed. I've missed meetings. I remember I was stuck in a snowstorm once in Canada, out of all places. I hate the cold. And I was like, I just got to get out of here. I had to go to New York for another business meeting. And literally I ended up taking the last flight back to LA. It was $2,200 for a one-way ticket. I could have gone to Israel. I was like, should I just go to Israel from here? My wife would understand. But I just out of nowhere, the New York trip was canceled. I couldn't make it because of a snowstorm. And the New York trip was literally to visit a company called Toys R Us, which went out of business. So that would have been money down the drain, basically. But if we focus on things that are in our control, we're able to make a difference and think proactively, okay, what can I do now? This is within my control. How do I rebook my flight? Not how do I complain and get mad at the customer service agent and how could the airline do this? And who cares? What do I do now? It's up to me. And that's another concept in Judaism. God doesn't give us a test we can't pass. God never puts us in a situation that we don't have the strength for. And if God puts us in a hard situation, that means God gave us extra strength. You know, like we have the power. So that's a very good point. So that's Stephen Covey, 8 Habits of Highly Successful People. There's an audiobook on it too, if you're lazy. That's really good. So that's perspective. And it's a mitzvah for us to thank God for the good as if it's bad. For the bad, for the good, for the good, for the bad. Everything is good. Fine. What's another one? Some of these are hard now that I look at it.
So we said there's 2 things. That's what people said so far: seeing the good and seeing that we're in control.
Right, which is almost the same concept,
the same.
similar.
Right. The areas that we're in control. You're right.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Rabbi Twersky, Abraham Twersky, has a fascinating book called First Year of Marriage. He has a bunch of books.
Amazing.
But yeah, I'm sure you've read his stuff, right, Rabbi?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. He said there's a study where they took a white piece of paper. See, we don't have paper anymore. We just have iPads and tablets, but assume this is a paper. And there's a little black dot. And they had 10 people. They asked 10 people, what do you see? And I think it was 9 out of 10 said, we see the little black dot. We're just ingrained to see the negative in life. Because, not to digress, but social media is all about, you know, either painting this amazingly fake picture of the world or painting this negative picture of what's going on. Like, it's either or. You know, there's no balanced news or anything balanced in that sense. So
to give benefit of the doubt, actually, I'll just throw in a point here, if you don't mind, Roy. But the human wants to see perfection because we were created in the formation of God. You wouldn't see that by other people. It's definitely a fault within us that we focus on the negative. But that comes deep from within a spiritual place, which is that we were created in the formation of Hashem, where there is no world of negativity, really. There is no problems. There is everything's absolute because God is absolute. And we're created in that formation. We have the neshama, the soul, and we're looking constantly to see that perfection. But obviously, it's a mistake within us to ignore what is good already, and that's part of our job. But what I just want to point out is that what I truly believe is that when humans do look at the flaw, there's a good part of it, which is that he's coming from a soul. You know, it's different to animals or anything else, where the human has the ability to always and always focuses on the fault and tries to fix it. It's definitely something we need to work on, but that's definitely just a point to throw in. It could be
for sure
a beneficial.
100%. We could use it for the good. I mean, that's how these successful. I mean, these Zuckerbergs of the world. I mean, he's a perfectionist. You know, like everything has to be done the right way. So it's definitely could be used for the good. 100%. So step 1 is, so we kind of jumped to step 4, but step 1 is unplug. What does it mean to unplug? When's the last time anybody was at a wedding? At least a couple months ago, hopefully, right? So ever been to a wedding and all you see is these things up there? Everyone is trying to film everything. Everyone's just trying to capture everything rather than live the moment, right? And it's important that we unplug and just like enjoy where we are. You know, I took our 20, I lose track. He's like 27, 28-month-old to a concert. It was a Jewish concert that the Maimonides Academy threw. And I came back, it was probably one of the best experiences. You know, one-on-one time with a kid is just like the best. I'm sure Rabbi would agree, right? You take them one-on-one, it's another world. So
that's what's happening now, honestly. Like what's going on now is a one big unplug. Just, you know, my kid, I'm getting to learn who my kids are for the first time. You know, it's amazing.
So my wife says too. She's like, I'm glad to have my husband back. So definitely the wives are happy.
That's a good sign that she's saying that.
Yeah. No, she loves Corona. She's praying every day that it doesn't end. Maybe taking it too far. But I took him there, and it was amazing. You know, like we were in a concert, just me and him singing. He was dancing. We got back, and my wife's like, "Okay, show me all the pictures." And I literally didn't take one picture. I think I took one picture. She was like, "How'd you not take pictures? You know, like you're there for 3 hours." I was just enjoying the moment, you know. And it's such a foreign concept to us nowadays to just unplug, and it's so important. I mean, we are lucky. You know, it's funny. Rabbi Jack mentioned now it's Corona time. It's such an opportunity to unplug. Rabbi Wallerstein, who one of my favorite speakers, he's on tour anytime. Highly recommend listening to him.
It's amazing.
He was saying how it's not only a time to unplug and get to know our families and our friends, but it's time to get to know ourselves, right? Like how many of us know ourselves? That's a whole nother class in and of itself. How do we get married without us even knowing who we are, right? But we have Shabbat. So a friend of mine who I've been learning with for the last 2 years, he kept his first Shabbat like 3 weeks ago. And then poor guy, he had a 3-day back-to-back Yom Tov first time in his life after his first Shabbat for Pesach. I'm like, oh my goodness, you can do it, don't worry. But he felt so free afterwards, you know, because we just disconnect from everything. And the number one stress, according to Dr. John Gottman, which the therapist here I'm sure have heard of, the number one stressful thing in a marriage is what?
Kids.
You say kids?
Yeah.
Great guess. So Dr. Gottman has a different statistic for that. 67% of marriages go downhill after having a child, whereas 33% actually just go way up. So you're absolutely right. Statistically, it is a big stress. But there's something that's uniform just throughout every couple. This is a common stressful thing. What do you think it is?
Communication.
Okay, good.
Anniversaries.
Remembering anniversaries?
Celebrating them.
Oh gosh, thank God for the calendar. Yeah, that's true too. That is a tough one.
Giving up responsibilities.
Doing the dishes.
Okay, close. What do we do now more than ever?
Shira, you're on?
Yeah.
Anniversaries? Oh my goodness.
I think, is this Gottman and Gottman?
God, my wife's
is
not
that,
on. This is from 7 Traits of a Great Marriage. 7 Traits of a Great Marriage.
I read something
Page.
that kindness is kind of an issue, and checking in and being present in the moment with your partner. So I don't know if this is the same Gottman, but basically in times when your partner is looking for attention, to turn towards them rather than turn away from them. Turn away. I don't know. Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
Oops.
Like an echo. What happened? You're absolutely right. What
Someone plugged into Zoom.
What you're describing is what he calls the love map. So Dr. Gottman says that it's, by the way, it goes Max Weber. They did studies on Gottman. Basically, every therapist goes through his courses, correct? He has a 95% chance of telling if a couple is going to get divorced or not within an hour of meeting them. It's amazing. I mean, his work is just, you know, it's okay if he has a 5% chance of messing up. That's still pretty good. But love map is basically whenever somebody says like, oh, look at how cute that butterfly is. And, you know, you're on your phone, on your Instagram, you have a choice to either turn towards them or turn away. So the more couples turn towards each other, the stronger the bond they build, the more that they're inclined and statistically higher chances are going to stay together. Which, by the way, he even talks about this. He's an Orthodox Jew. I don't know if anybody's knew that.
Didn't know that.
So he's an Orthodox Jew, and then towards the end of that book, he mentions how the Torah, the word in Torah for knowing someone, for having relations, is to know someone. Ladat, right, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Back check. So he says that to know someone, the Bible, I mean, he's writing this for all religions. So he says the Bible understood the concept of a strong relationship, because really what strengthens a relationship and solidifies the bond is to know that other person. But totally digress there. But he says, other than building the love map, one thing that breaks it apart is something called work stress. So couples nowadays.
Someone's asking, what's the book?
Oh, 7 Traits of a Great Marriage. He has a few books. So if you're going to have a kid, which by the looks of it, you guys all look too young, but could be wrong. There's Baby Makes 3. That's an amazing book. That just prepares you for a child. But 7 Traits of a Great Marriage, even if you're not married, highly recommend reading it. Oh, and also, if you want to get, there's a free summary of it. If you have an iPhone, you just go to Books, the Books app, type in Quick Read. This company just does these quick summaries, like 40, 50 pages for free. And they have this book. They have, I believe they have 8 Habits of Highly Successful People. They have the 5 a.m. They have a bunch of great books. So, and it's free. So today's couples work an average of 1,000 more hours than they did 30 years ago. Right? So it's so important that when we learn how to kind of contain that work stress in any relationship. Okay? And in order to do that, there's another concept. We're going to get to point 2. Can anybody guess point 2? Money, huh? We don't have enough time to talk about that one, but yeah, good. It's fine. Okay, hold that thought, money, because we're going to talk about it this time. Fine. We're going to go into that.
Roy, can I just throw something about unplugging?
Please.
I just want to throw an idea here, which is just off my head, but through my experience of life. So I've not necessarily seen this directly. But what I find is that if we unplug sometimes in the right way, we gain much more time afterwards. In general. So just to give an example, in a relationship, if you're able to unplug right and properly, and it applies to all other areas of life, then throughout the rest of the day, you can have more ability and freedom to do other things as well. So for the things that you need to unplug for, it's worth your while unplugging anyway, because I'll give you a perfect example, a child. So at the beginning of the day, you wake up and you do your thing, and your child wants your attention. So you don't unplug. And you're busy with your phone, or you're busy with your work, or you're busy studying Torah or praying, and your child's begging you, please give me attention. So you drag on that child that's begging for your attention. And finally, after you look at the child, you give him a small amount of attention. So it wasn't a full amount that he's looking for, thinking that, okay, I'm just going to do this and then carry on my thing. So then you give him a small amount of attention. And then for the next 3 hours, he's happy for 5 minutes. But then again, for the next 3 hours, he's still bugging you because you didn't unplug fully. So I just want to throw that out there. By unplugging, you gain so much more time as well. Because if you're able to give your child, let's say, the full attention, go down on the floor, play that game that he wants you to play with him, and just give him that 10 minutes of real attention, even 10 minutes, or an hour, you're able to really have that unplug feature done, and you can do everything else. The child's going to carry on his own way. He'll be happy. He feels he got his attention. And it works like that in marriage. It works like that in all areas of life. Just throwing that in, that even we underestimate the power of an unplug. If it's an hour even in a week. We once went to our Rebbe in Israel, very holy rabbi, and we asked him this concept. It was so busy, me and my wife, with students and people, and so many people coming into our house, and then Shabbat and making food, and we don't stop. So how do we give real attention to our children? And he said 1 hour. That's it, 1 hour a week. And we were like, what, really? He says, no, but you and that child 1 hour a week. And that's, take them to Coffee Bean, or literally just that child for 1 hour. And what we found was that when it's a real unplug, we were unplugging in the past, but not like that. When it's such a powerful 1 hour unplug, you're able to gain, so the child's happy and feels good. And then everything else, it's in relationships as well. Like many people here might say that the other side has told them, why are you not giving me attention? Why are you not talking to me? Why are you not giving me? If you would give that, you don't realize that attention doesn't mean that you have to give 24/7 hours of attention. It just needs one real focused attention, and then you'll be able to be, able to make that person happy and continue in the way that you're living. It's much smaller amounts, but with much more quality, gives you what you're looking for. Just throwing that there, I think is a really important point that I think through my experience of living has helped us in many ways.
Oh, it's very true. No, thank you. I mean, it's literally a segue to the next point perfectly, but I'll tell you a quick, so probably the best trip of my life, right? And I've been to a lot of places, thank God. The best trip I've ever had was, I'll atone for my sins now, I went to Vegas. We've been to Vegas. We've all been to Vegas tons of times. But I went to Vegas with my daughter. Literally, me and her. I had a dinner meeting there. So I had to go for a night. And I said, you know what? I thank God you have 3 kids. Everybody wants your attention. Just like Rabbi was saying, it's like, you don't know what to do. Like, this one wants this, that one that wants this, the job, your wife needs help. It's just like me and her. And it was amazing. Like, we went to the dolphin habitat. We had dinner together. We touched the dolphins. Like, we were in the airplane together. We were at the land. Like, it was just her most memorable time. I remember she was talking about it for like 6 months, showing pictures to all her friends. But like Rabbi was mentioning, in a relationship, some people say, oh, we dated for 6 months. But how do you define dating? Like, what are you guys doing together? Are you really with each other? I mean, next time you go to a restaurant, which we don't know how long it's going to be till we go to a restaurant, but next time you go to a restaurant, take a look around and see how many people are on their phones. Like, my wife and I try to make a rule. Very difficult again. But dinner time, we take our phones, we put them in the kitchen on the counter. It's our time to unplug. And the next point is, it's not only unplugging, but it's something called mindfulness. Step 2 is mindfulness. How do you define mindfulness? It's a very hip concept nowadays. But I'll tell you how the Baal Shem Tov would say. The Baal Shem Tov says that you are where your mind is. So if we're here on a date, but our mind is at work, or our mind is on, The Last Dance, we're not really on the date, right? We are where the mind is. So if our mind's not in it, then forget it. You're not there. It doesn't matter. And when we're mindful, like Rabbi was saying, when we unplug, we're able to connect on such a deeper level. But it's not just unplug it. We have to be in the moment, like 100% in that moment. Because when we're in that moment, we could connect to that other being on a level that could be 10,000 hours in just 1 hour, right? And I'll give you a quick story. So I've bought, there's 5 love languages, right? So I feel like love language of money, gifts, I feel like that's a universal one. Boy, was I wrong. It took me about 5 years to learn that. My wife's love language is not gifts. But for 5 years, I was just getting her gifts, like whether it's jewelry, and thank God she doesn't really care about these things. I got her a nice purse that she returned once. Didn't we could return purses. Literally the next day she just returned it. And I got her a nice car, like you name it. But I've never seen her so happy as this one time that cost me like, I don't know, 1/10 of 1 month's car payment. And it was, she pulled her neck with one of the kids, and she knows how important it is for me. And I'm sure Rabbi can understand, for us to go in our routine, to go to shul, to pray with our minyan, to learn in the morning. Like, that is to me just the most important. Like, everybody knows, you don't bother me during those times, whether it's for a business meeting, that I'll try to schedule my trips around going after the minyan's over. But I said, she's in such pain and she's taking care of these kids. I surprised her the next morning. I didn't go to shul. I stayed home. I watched the kids, and I had a masseuse come and give her a massage to help her neck. And she was like, like you've never seen her glowing like that. I was like, my goodness, I could have saved so much money over the years had I known this trick. It had nothing to do with like gifts didn't get even a tenth of that. So we have to be mindful. We have to really be in the moment. And when we're in the moment, we can appreciate people and understand what they really care about much more than, unfortunately, when we're not in the moment. Okay, the next step, number 3, is procrastination. How many of us have procrastinated before? One honest person. Great, 2, 3, good. We're all guilty as charged. But have you ever been in that moment where you're pushing things off and like the whole time you're just thinking about it and you get more stressed and more stressed because you're pushing it off and your deadline's coming up and you haven't done it, but you just can't get in it, you know? We just have to stop doing that. So if we can try to just get something done, here it is, get it off your plate, it'll change our life. The next one is health. How many of you think that health is important in Judaism? So, Rabbi, feel free to jump in, but I think Rambam has a little bit to say about health.
Of course. Yeah. We gave a whole lecture on the Rambam's books of health.
Wow.
It's unbelievable the amount of knowledge and importance and priority that Judaism gives on physical health and the way we eat. 100%.
And Eli is now a pro at those books. So if anybody has questions, go see Eli. But the Rambam, I mean, you know, whether it's, he says, don't be 100% full. Eat 3/4 of how full you are. You know, leave a little bit left over. Exercise. Try to exercise in the morning. Like it's so important that we're healthy. If we're not healthy, our body is a lease from God. And just like any car lease, you have to return it in good condition. So the next one is perspective, which we talked about. And a subsection of that is something that I call analyzing the cause of the stress. So if anybody feels comfortable, share something you were stressed about. A very stress-free crowd.
I am stressed because I am furloughed and I don't know if I'm going to get my job back.
That is a real cause of stress, right? You hear? So how do we deal with that? How are you dealing with that?
I make myself busy doing different things to better myself so that I don't sit there and think about something that's out of my control.
Perfect. So that's Stephen Covey's advice, right? Focus on what's in our control. You know, whether it's looking what else is out there, right? What else is going to happen? Perhaps God is giving us a message. Maybe he has something better in store for you. You know, maybe that job's just going to come back. There's 101 solutions, things that can happen. But by stressing, and this is probably one of the more valid, I mean, people stress when they get a cold latte, right? So this is definitely a more valid reason to be stressed. But it's all about our perspective. If we, you know, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says in his book, this is like probably one of the longest books I ever read. It's like 400 pages. But it's positivity bias, it's called. And he says that if we think good, it shall be good. And throughout his life, he was able to just reframe things in a way that were just unbelievable. You know, Ariel Sharon, have you heard of Ariel Sharon, former Prime Minister of Israel? Few people know this. After the Yom Kippur War, his 11-year-old son shot himself to death. Accidentally was playing with a gun and took his life. And the Rebbe wrote like probably one of the most emotional letters to Ariel Sharon on how to try to overcome that feeling. You know, he just lost his son. So and Judaism isn't all about, we're not going to stress. We're not going to, you know, we're going to ignore no, we focus on it, but we focus on it in a healthy way. And a lot of times we analyze our cause of stress. So sometimes our stress, what's really causing it, right? If somebody cuts you off, why are we upset? I guess people don't drive anymore. Nobody cuts anybody off. But what would upset you really?
Because they think they have somewhere else better to be than I do.
Right. So Dr. Lieberman, for those of you, I think a few of you guys have heard him here. He explains, he gives two scenarios, right? An old lady cuts you off. And you look back, you turn around, you see, Nebach, this lady's on the way to her funeral. You know, like she's barely behind the wheel. Poor lady, she cut me off. It's okay. Or you see a young guy cut you off, speeding, zooming through the lanes. Who are you going to be upset about? It's funny. This actually happened to me in real life, but a little bit worse. I'm in my office and my assistant calls me and I'm in a call. I'll text you back. She goes, "It's an emergency." I'm like, "Oh my God, maybe she's like kidnapped or something." I don't know, you know, what's going on? She goes, "Hey, somebody just hit your car." I'm like, how? Like, it's parked. How do you hit a parked car? So I come downstairs. Literally, if anybody wants, I can send you pictures. Somebody like basically totaled my car while it was parked. And 3 other cars, an old lady happened to drive out of CVS. This lady is like 85 years old. And instead of pressing on the brakes, she pressed the gas pedal. Slammed through 2 cars. Like just she took down a parking meter too, by the way. That's how fast she was going. And I wasn't upset because, like, poor lady, you know, maybe she needs help. So we have to analyze why we're getting stressed. Does that make sense? If anybody upsets us, like, why is it upsetting us? If we think through, if it's just they're trying to get somewhere faster. So
the examples that you were giving was to say that if there's a rational reason to explain it, then the reason why the stress level will be reduced.
Right. And even if there's no rational reason, you know, maybe we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what's going on in somebody's life. If somebody was rude to us. Yeah, right? Like, who are we to know? There's a Gemara, I'm sure Rabbi knows this Gemara, it's in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, that says, however we judge people, that's the way God's going to judge us. So why judge negatively? Right? Just be the bigger person, as they say. So those are the 5 tidbits. Just a quick recap. Anybody remember number 1? Unplugged, mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of my favorite ones. I'm telling you, if we master mindfulness, I'm the worst at this. I'm the most mindless person walking around this house. But if we master mindfulness, like, it'll change our relationships forever and ourselves, right? Procrastinating and analyzing what is stressing us, our perspective, and analyzing our stress. And that will just change everything. And the last one is expectations. Having realistic expectations. What does that mean?
So was health one of them, you said?
Yeah, health was one of them. Sorry, skipped over that one. I figured you guys had a whole class on it, so you had it covered.
It's been a while.
What do I mean by expectations? So paint the picture, right? You go to a dinner, okay? And you expect this to be this amazing meal. Like, you're expecting the best food in the world, and it's mediocre. You're not gonna be happy. But if you go into it with expectations that are just like, okay, I'm gonna get full, you know, that's all that matters, then it doesn't matter what they serve you. You're gonna be happy, you know? And it's for the good or for the bad, right? We should expect the most out of ourselves, but in situations in life, we can't expect like insane expectations, because then we're setting ourselves up for failure. But in terms of ourselves, anybody watching here, the ESPN show on Michael Jordan, The Last Dance? No? Man, it's a very holy crowd, Rabbi. No TV. Great.
I really don't know what you mean.
Okay, good.
But Max sounds like Max has.
Thank you, Max. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
One thing that you'll notice on that show, this is how I justify watching it, right? It teaches you a lesson in life. But one thing that you'll notice is the work ethic that Michael Jordan had. He wasn't born a great basketball player, right? But he pushed himself to become a great basketball player. So he expected the most out of himself. But in every situation you go into, it doesn't mean you have to have these outlandish expectations. And I'll finish with one quick story. We went on our honeymoon. And this is where I probably had the highest expectations. I didn't expect anything of our wedding. I just showed up. I didn't even know which Hilton it was going to be at. I asked my wife beforehand. Like, I literally had nothing to do with our wedding. But the honeymoon, I planned that out from A to Z. And when I got there, I was just, pleasantly surprised. It wasn't exactly what I expected. It was in Tahiti. It was an island called Moria. And it looks really great in the pictures. And it really is nice. Don't get me wrong. But for what you're paying, you're expecting something a little bit different. It was fine. We get into the room. Everything's great. And then I felt lizards in my body, right? And that was the native lizards that live in Tahiti. The front desk explained to us, as I told them that I should switch rooms because there are lizards in our room. They explained that there's lizards in every bungalow because that is just where they live, right? We can't switch you out of the lizard habitat because this is a lizard habitat. It's not on their website, by the way. I checked. But if my expectations weren't like, I'm going to go into this amazing resort, okay, whatever. So what? All right. Comments, questions?
I would just throw in here, you said expectations. There's also the concept of entitlement, which kind of which also kind of goes with that, this feeling that I deserve or I'm entitled even to my own children, to my own money. As from a Jewish perspective, tying back to emunah, which is definitely a big part of the stress factor, the lack of emunah. But if I'm able to, recognize that everything I have isn't really mine, because I'm not in this world forever. And when it comes to money, we have a statement in Proverbs which says, "Li hakesef v'li hazahav." God says, "Gold and silver is mine, and it's not ours." Meaning to say, it's all stuff that came in this world. Never get overly attached to anything, because they never stay with us forever anyway. And when it comes to our children, even, we shouldn't really think for everyone else here as well, for their futures. We shouldn't really think that they are mine, that they need to, or I expect them to do things for me because I own them. They're a gift that has been given to me, and I have to look after them. They're deposited in my hands, and I have to look after them. And these are very special souls, just like everyone else, including myself. And every single person needs to look at themselves as a special being. So we should never feel entitled to anything. And emunah helps us with that. And I think that's also just bouncing off on this concept of expectations. It comes with this concept of I deserve money. I deserve people to give me. I deserve to. That's not a godly trait. A godly trait says I don't deserve anything, and I should be giving as much as I can because I am the creator. I am the one that can create. And that's the way that a righteous person works. That's what we want to aim towards being. When we see our child is able to manage on their own, we get this feeling of comfort and joy. But when they're constantly feeling entitled, feeling that they should be we train our children to say thank you all the time, just for that reason. Because expectations is a key to our stressful mindset, right? That's the key that you're saying. Anyone got questions, thoughts for our brilliant lecturer, Roy, that's here? Fantastic.
Gosh.
I can see how mindfulness and expectations kind of go hand in hand, because if you have that good mindset and you're able to be, and actually all of the points that you made, they all kind of are interwoven, because if you can have that mindset where you're just present in the moment with somebody else, and you're not placing your expectations on them and putting this intensity upon them, it's just, anything can be enjoyable then the lizard room on your honeymoon is hilarious, because you both get to enjoy that experience where you're maybe not on your phones and you're right there in the moment and you're laughing that you're stuck in a room with lizards. And I can see how you just can, like, if it's all in that perspective shift, if you can just be there and enjoy it, then everything can be good in life. Like you said, like Hashem sending you that, it's you can handle it, and it's for you to just I don't know, appreciate that you have that ability I really try to appreciate in these moments right now, especially like just completely embracing that we get to have this stress, that's part of living. Like we get to be stressed that the markets are difficult these days, or we get to be appreciative of all these little things that we had taken for granted for so long. So I don't know. I think it's nice that you've summed it up in these 5 points, and it really, I think they all can help us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a great summary. Add that to the class.
It's beautiful. Anyone else? Any thoughts, ideas, anything to share? Max, you've been quiet there.
Sorry, I'm at a blank right now. Let me come back to me.
Oh, okay.
I guess I have a question.
Of course.
How do you know how much to expect? Or is it like you don't have any, like you shouldn't have any expectations for things?
It's a good question. I think it's a Gemara. It says, how can we have two eyes? So one eye is to look at the outside world and the other eye is to look at ourselves. And I think personally, like if we have high expectations of ourselves, realistically high expectations, right? They still have to be realistic, but that's healthy because we have to push ourselves. I mean, life is about pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves and growing because, you know, as anybody will tell you, you don't grow muscle by not pushing yourself at the gym. You don't grow your spirituality by not pushing yourself spiritually. We just can't grow, right? A lobster doesn't shed its shell without growing. So pushing ourselves, that's great. But when it comes to expectations of others, I mean, the more we have of expectations of them, the more we're going to be let down. You know, what's the advantage of having expectations?
I will just throw in beautiful. And I just want to throw in another concept here. Because I've had people ask this many times, especially in the area of happiness, because we all know that happiness is when you're happy with what you have and with what you've done and what you've achieved and who you are. As it says in Pirkei Avot, someone who's wealthy, someone who's happy with what they have. And then everyone asks me, so how do you be ambitious? If you're just happy with what you have, where is the ambition? And I think they're not a contradiction. And it goes hand in hand with the concept of expectations. But it's not, they can work together. And what I want to say is that when you are having ambitions, when you have expectations in yourself to grow, and it comes on the expense of who you are, then you know that your ambitions are wrong. Okay? If your ambitions are, I need to be a owner of a company, I need to be the boss of this company, I need to leave this job, and everything I am right now is worthless, then you know that expectation is wrong. But when you are recognizing, you maintain that mindset that I'm sameach b'chelko, I'm happy with who I am, and my heart is good, my eyes are good, my mind is good, my life is good, my health is good. With that power, with that what we call fuel, now go on and be ambitious and use that in order to be ambitious, to grow more, but never come to a point where you say everything I've done till now is worthless. That is the problem. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with an expectation in yourself to grow and to be more successful and to be achieve more, to want to be married, to want to be whatever it is in life, to progress, right? All of that is good. But when it comes to a point where people say that humans are worthless, or I am worthless, that's when I understand that person's lacking the whole essence of happiness, and that you can never take away from yourself. So have expectations, expect yourself to grow, want more, because that's what you are. You're a soul, you're a human. You'll never be happy with a little bit. We are created in the formation of God, going back into what I was saying, that we want to grow. Humans want to get out of Earth and onto moon. You wouldn't see a bunch of elephants saying, hey, let's get on a rocket ship and go to the moon. But humans want to progress. And there's a beauty in that. But there's a challenge in the point where humans come to depression saying, okay, I want to get there, and therefore where I am is worthless. I need this car, and therefore the car that I'm driving right now is pointless. It's junk. No, you can get from A to Z. Find that joy. Find joy in the car that you have. Find joy in the clothes that you have. Find joy in the love that you have, in the eyes that you have. In every part of everything that you have, find joy. And with that, be ambitious. With that, have expectations. So it's not a contradiction. Actually, they go hand in hand with each other.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Any other question, comment, anything? Or you're all like...
I could comment on what Rabbi Jack just said.
Go ahead.
Just because, Eitan's nudging to say something. So I find that in terms of being happy with what you have while also having ambition, I find it helpful to think about the reasons why you want what you want, right? So if it's money, right, like you're saying, I want to be successful in my career, why do you want to be more successful? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to host Shabbat meals? Or are you going to say, okay, I feel financially secure. I'm going to spend more time studying. I'm going to spend more time with my family. I'm going to have money to, go on dates and pursue my wife, which is what God wants from you. So if you really think about, like, hopefully that is the reason you want what you want. But if you really think about the end goal, like where does this chain go? What do I actually want? Then you can say, okay, I'm happy with what I have, but I know that, Hashem's given me whatever power and the ability to achieve more. And the more I achieve for those reasons, the more time I can spend with my family, the more, if I get control of my life and have my own successful business, I don't have to ask permission to, take off chagim, like whatever it is. That's at least one example of how you can want more and be happy with what you have.
Beautiful. It's a very important point, because on Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, we know that all the money that you're going to have and your how much you're going to have is already fixed for you, besides for how much you spend on Shabbat, which is a different point. But in general, the money that we're going to have throughout the year is already fixed on us on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And when we look at the prayer that we have for Parnassah, for livelihood on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the language that we use for it is, please help us have more money, help us be more successful, so that we can serve you better, so that we can, right? It's always the so that in the language of the prayer that we have. And I find that that's so applicable to what you're saying, which is that we should always ask ourselves, why do I want it? If it's for a good cause, if it's for a good reason, then you will achieve it, and you will achieve it with the right mindset, and you know that you're going in the right way. I think that that's a very important thing as well. It's the mindset as well of what you want it for, which can also make a huge difference. So beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome.
I actually had something to add on to what Dan said. So I have like a sort of mantra, is that two things. So the mantra is, if you can't be happy with where you are now, you won't be happy with wherever you end up. And that, like Dan was saying, is that you have to be okay with what's going on in your present life. Always strive to do better in life. Get more money, or chase that thing that's going to give you more self-satisfaction. But if you're not okay with where you are at your current, you won't be okay once you get to that point. If you get that promotion, what's next? You just want another promotion. You need to be okay with what you have before you can move on. And adding on to that, it helps even to cope with stress, and that if you can realize that, then you can realize how to approach a certain situation so that you can turn out the best for it. You know, when I got cut from my job at the start of this whole quarantine thing, and rather than, you know, kind of sulk and, you know, grieve and play a victim, I decided, you know, all right, this is what's like, I'm going to start pushing myself to expand and grow so that I can come out of this better. I've been studying like nonstop for the GRE. I want to take it and go get my MBA. And if anything, I have Hashem to thank for putting me in the situation where he has given me this the opportunity to get ready, you know, and expand and grow in the way that I want to. But you know, if I had gotten let go, and I kind of just, you know, sulked, watched Netflix for 10 hours a day, you know, I wouldn't be doing anything. And it's all about, you know, taking the situation, taking a bad situation, not stressing out about it, and applying it to yourself so that you can so you can be better. Excuse me.
Leveraging the challenge for greatness is exactly what you're saying.
I like that. I'm going to quote you on that one. Leverage the challenge.
There's a book titled Wherever You Go, There You Are, and I haven't read the book, but I think that's exactly what you're saying is, you know, wherever you go, like you're going to have to deal with you in that moment. So being okay within yourself is definitely important.
Beautiful.
Wow. That's awesome. Wow. I'm loving it. So much wisdom. Look at that. This is amazing. Awesome people here. Anyone else want to add anything before we before we ending?
No, but Max, if you have questions about the GRE, let me know.
Thank you.
Nice.
I have a lot, so I'm taking it in a couple of weeks. I'm still freaking out about that a little bit.
That's great. Well, we wish you luck. Yeah, stress-free period of time before you get there.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Okay, so we're thankful. Thank you, Roy. Thank you for the time. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you. Wow, it was amazing. I loved it. Amazing class. We got to hear everyone as well, which is great. At least some of you hear your wisdom to all of us. So this is really special. Can't wait for more.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. That was great.
Yeah.
I figured out how to give you applause. It's a reaction.
Yeah, I see that. That's cool.
Hey, let's all do that at the same time. Where is it?
Well, is that a thing? You know,
it's next to the record button. There you go.
You learn something new every day.
Hey.
I get
pull
that.
off tomorrow.
Cool. All right. So
we're
gonna practice.
Thanks,
that was
guys.
great. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
guys.
By the way, everyone, before I forget, don't forget this Thursday we are having our happy hour and heads up. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interactive. Some nice social, you know.
And tomorrow night.
And tomorrow night is going to be the dating series. So we're pretty much, I think I sent out the weekly calendar, you know, the weekly schedule. I tried to do it on Sunday, but I was a bit late this week, so it's in now. You should see it on the Messenger group. And I posted it as well, so stay tuned. We want to see you like every day, you know, from our point of view, like every hour, whenever you're available. Just come on.
So tomorrow's topic is 6 reasons why dating in 2020 is so difficult.
Yeah, we have a lot on that. So prepare your questions too, you know. We're going to elaborate.
Social media. Right. No. Okay. All right, guys.
So see you all. Have a good night.
Yeah, looking forward. Thank you.